So, peace, everybody. Is Umtahana at Beyond Clouds. And while I have a little break at work, I wanted to bring something to the people. Recently, someone with very, very good intent made a statement to me that my son, Two Clouds, will read that my son was a prophet. And I wanted to sort of touch on that because my son, as I've said in other videos, was a Muslim, undeniable Muslim, unshakable in his faith and his beliefs in Islam, and he would have been appalled at someone referring to him as a prophet, and it would have frightened him to his core. Now, we have been Muslim for generations in my line, but I do have family members, a lot of family members who are Christian, have a lot of friends and associates who are Christian, and I'm not saying this with any shade or anything, but what I've noticed is that word prophet gets thrown around, in my opinion, like an awful lot. If somebody has a dream that comes true, they're a prophet or a prophetess, or if they speak some good stuff that people like to hear, they're a prophet or a prophetess and all that. And I want to, as I said, bring to the people, in regards to my son, to hopefully get everyone to understand and appreciate the fact that he was not a prophet. My son, as dope as he was just a regular person, and anything that he accomplished, any one of us can accomplish, and much more. I think that humans in general have I think we have developed, again, in my opinion, a very bad habit of reaching out for other things, into other things that are tangible, that we believe we cannot obtain. The people or things that we believe have obtained things that we believe we ourselves cannot obtain, or that can't obtain anything, but we don't believe we can obtain it. So we sort of project those things onto whatever inanimate objects, humans who have lived either recently or thousands of years ago, who may have or may not have really lived, or all sorts of things. And I would tell you, pertaining to Murid, Two Clouds, Nishakamagwak, even if it's someone, he would call me stressing and just really in disbelief, and I will say disgust. It's not the proper word, but I can't really think of the word right now. But over people who would put him on his pedestal. He didn't like that at all. He did not like it. And he was very concerned about having to answer for that on the day of judgment with the Creator. My son, again, was Muslim when he was here in human form, and I would venture to say he's still Muslim, but he was Muslim, and being Muslim, he believed that the last prophet that was sent from the Creator, of the 124,000 who had been sent to from the Creator to every nation, the Quran says, he believed that Muhammad was the last messenger, and he transitioned, he passed away over 1,400 years ago. So there's absolutely no way my son would have ever in any remote, minute type of way have considered himself being a prophet. Again, I don't know. I think a lot of people, again, he was, an awesome guy, very intelligent, accomplished a lot of things. But he was not, I think people who are not, I'm trying to choose words properly so people won't get offended, because I'm not saying this to offend anyone. I'm saying it because I don't want that type of talk burdening my son's spirit, or having him have to answer for some things if that is possible. And I don't want people spreading some unrealistic narrative about him. We are very much about having control of our own stories, and he's not here, so the duty has passed on to me. And I'm simply not going to sit back, as some of you may have already learned. I'm not going to just sit back and allow anyone to change his name, either if it's far to the left or far to the right. And so, I guess also people should understand that Islam, again, we've been Muslims in my family for generations. It's not just like a culture thing for us, it's actual faith, things we believe. And I keep losing my train of thought. So Islam, I think that most people just have a very, very limited idea of what Muslims are and what Quran teaches, the same way that people have a very, very limited idea of natives. Islam is a literate way of life. It's very, very much about education, very much about education. And so I think that people who have been around my son as two clouds are unfamiliar with that sort of thing. There are a lot of people who have gone to university, but university, you go there and you learn what it is you're told to learn, basically. And since my son was very much outside the box of that, because I homeschooled him and his siblings I homeschooled him for maybe 16 years or so more than half his life. He was taught to, just as my mom taught me, he was taught to not only study, like the standard stuff, if that makes any sense. And so that's just how he was raised and molded to be. And so to people outside of that tradition, it may seem like really big stuff, and it is on a level, but he wasn't like unique in that. He grew up around people who spoke multiple languages. He grew up around people who were leaders and imams. He grew up around people who were revolutionaries. He grew up around people who were courageous and stood up for things, regardless to what the risk of death or, imprisonment was. All these things that people see about him and put on a pedestal, it was awesome, but it was just who he was taught to be and who he was molded to be. And there are a whole bunch of other people like him where he's from, down in, Newark, Elizabeth, East Orange area. And so for people to look at him and feel like he's something super, super special, like otherworldly, I think it's more a reflection of them and their, I guess, limited information and experiences and things of that nature. And again, I am not saying that in a shady way. I'm just trying to articulate as best I can come up with right now to people that don't call him a prophet. He was just a regular person. I also think that humans in our always reaching out to turn people and things into gods, because, again, we don't believe that we can obtain godliness or, an elevated status. I think that in grabbing hold to someone. Yeah, so I think that holding on to something or someone takes not only the pressure off ourselves to do better ourselves, you know, we put it on to someone else like, oh wow, they're so great, or they're so awesome, or they're close to God, or, you know, all these sorts of ideas. It takes the pressure off us, ourselves, to be that sort of person, but also it takes the pressure off of us to stand up for that person that we're making into like this big to do, you know. So we don't have to stand up and fight for them. We don't have to stand up and give them or recognize them or acknowledge them as just being a regular person who also needs our help. It's like, oh well, they'll be okay, God got them, or you know, like you don't have to. Or in my son's case, for instance, me trying to get my thought out, you know, not standing up for him being murdered and things of that nature. It's so much easier just to throw up, you know, a meme or a random or you know, post or something like that about whomever, Two Clouds or whomever, Malcolm X, Mumia, Jesus, whoever the case is, and you know, give all the burden or the duty of standing up for them and also giving back to them. You know, it takes that pressure off us. So, in summing all this up, again, one, he was not a prophet. He was a regular old person. Two, he would be appalled at anyone calling him prophet. And again, as I said, it would scare the mess out of him. He'd be praying and praying against it, because in Islam there's something called shirk. Shirk is when you put partners with the Creator. So ancestors, whoever, it's shirk. And it's like, it's the only one thing that the Creator will not forgive you for if you should die in that state. So if you, you know, kill, rape, molest, you know, beat people up, cheat, thievery, whatever, all the horrible sins that we humans do, if we repent for it and then change our ways, we'll be forgiven for it. And even if you die in those states, there's still a chance that you could be forgiven for it, depending on other things that you've done with your life. Because, you know, the Creator, we believe as Muslims, is very, very fair and merciful and forgiving and all that good stuff. However, shirk, if you die in that state, there's just no hope for you, because it's just like on a lower level, I suppose. If you do all these things for someone, you make sure they're fed, they have no money, you give them money, they have no clothes, you give them clothes, you call in to check on them, you always doing all these great things to help their lives and their you know, mental state and all those things be good for them and for their families. And they don't even acknowledge you, like, ever. They acknowledge other people, or, you know, even say like, oh, this is because of me. You feel some kind of way. And while the Creator is not a in physical form or man or woman or any of that kind of thing, from the Islamic perspective and from my son's perspective and from traditional Lenape and Haudenosaunee realities and perspectives, the Creator is none of that. And so, you know, to bind partners with the Creator in any form is a severe sin, for lack of a better word, haram. And so my son never, ever would have done that, and he absolutely would check somebody who told him that themselves. Not in a mean way, but he would let them know. Also, in that shirk, I want to again express to people who just simply didn't get my son. My son, while he was a water protector, he did not pray to the water. He did not praise the water. He didn't worship the water, anything like that. While he was a fire keeper, he did not praise the fire or you know, anything of that sort, worship it in any sort of a way. While he respected the ancestors and prayed for some of his ancestors, he did not go to them for anything. And it's simply because it's all just very ridiculous to us and to him. Why on earth would you go to any of those things who don't even sustain themselves? You know, the water, all the elements worship Creator. So why on earth would we worship the elements? It doesn't make sense. Also, the ancestors couldn't save themselves. Anything that they're doing in the spirit world is only by leave of the Creator. So why on earth would we go to them? We go to the Creator. And so, again, all those things doing the opposite would be shirk. So understand that for a surety, Murids, 2 clouds would never ever have partaken in any of that stuff. So yeah, I just really want to put that out there. And if anybody continues to do so or believe so or any of that kind of thing, know that it is from your own nafs, your own lower self, your own ego. I know a lot of people do this. Is that we view others from our own reality, our own perspective, and how we see ourselves. We try to like project or put those things on other people, but it's not accurate to do so. Yeah. So again, if you continue to do that or whatever, then that's from you. That's not from my son. And I continuously make prayer against people who do that sort of thing. Not against you, but because it's just not cool. It's not cool. I mean, and just because our ancestors did things, don't mean you got to do things. Ancestors are just regular old people. My father, for instance, was just regular old people. We had all sorts of vices. And so if my grandchildren came along and started doing stuff he did because that's what their ancestors did, it's ridiculous, you know. And again, I'm not saying that in a disrespectful type of way. That's not my intention. I really wish people would just, all of us, would take the time to think about things, ponder, as Quran always tells us that the Quran is for people who ponder. In Islam, we are not commanded or expected to simply do things for the sake of doing them. And in fact, the Quran is very adamant about us not doing anything, even if it's Islam, because that's what our ancestors, our forefathers and mothers did. And so I really would encourage everyone to stop, think about things that we do and that we believe, and try to understand them and see if they make sense or not, and if they really have a place along with Creator. And also, in closing, the last thing I would like to say is that not only would 2 clouds not, again, I'm stressing, not have been down with anyone seeing him as anything other than what he was, a prophet or anything that put him on some sort of pedestal. He would want people to gain from him inspiration, to learn, to get closer to Creator, not things, not, whatever, amulets or, statuettes or any of that sort of thing that other humans have made. So, I mean, if I mold a statue and say it's Mother Mary or whoever it is, then it would make more sense in my mind that, okay, if you're going to pray something, you should pray to me. I made it. But the fact is, none of these things can do anything for us. They don't sustain life. You can take an amulet and put a hammer to it. It couldn't save itself. You could take a statuette or any ancient artifact from 20,000 years ago and tear it to smithereens. It couldn't save itself. It couldn't harm you for smashing it. It couldn't do anything. Therefore, it has no power, not even to save itself. And so Murid Two Clouds is very much aware of that. And if anything, he would want people to, again, sort of ponder those things and work on becoming closer to Creator, which is what he did. People talk so much about how he was a traditionalist and all of this kind of thing. What does that mean? He was so against so many things that he knew was not tradition. And some of y'all get upset about this, but I'm telling you what my son believed. Whether it was spoken peyote or if it was, the concept of two spirits, just so many things he was so against. And most people may not know this because we don't even really talk Islam with other Muslims, because why? We're not going to really get into that because it brings so much friction and stuff. And then people, for the most part, we believe what we believe, and that's it. We don't want to think about it. It's just like, this what I was raised to do, this what I'm going to do. Or, whether it works for them and make their lives better or not. And so he didn't talk about things with people. It's like if you have a friend who's very into football and you're very into football, we all together, you talk about football. You don't talk about the cosmos. You don't talk about, crocheting, if that's also something you're big into. You don't talk about nutrition if your friend only eats hot dogs and soda. You don't talk about those things. You talk about it with people who they're into the same things, and even if they don't believe as you do, too, he had several friends who were not Muslim, but they were interested in theological thoughts and expression, and they respected each other, each other's thoughts and expressions of spirituality and religion. And so they can talk and build for hours and hours and hours. And so, if you don't know about something in particular with him, it doesn't mean it didn't exist. It just means that you're not aware of it. As his mom and as his very best friend, I would venture to say, all of y'all who have been around him know he's talked about me over and over and over again. So you understand that. But again, there are things he may have done on the outside that I don't know about, and vice versa. But our core beliefs, we're both very much aware of. And so, again, please stop calling my son a prophet. He's not a prophet. He was a Muslim, and he believed that Muhammad, alayhi salam, peace be upon him, was the last of all the prophets. And that's it. If you love and respect Two Clouds, and love and respect Two Clouds, if something is from your own nafs, your own lower self, your own personal understanding, then understand that is you, not him. Peace.